Hello and welcome. You must have come because you want to know the secrets of the art of music levels. Well, look no further because today I will reveal two ingenious techniques which are used by real Levelhead maestros. First, make sure you have completed enough training levels in order to unlock the boomboxes. Now, before we begin the tutorial, it would really help if you would click the button to turn off the in-game music, since it's very distracting when you're trying to compose your own tunes. You thought I was going to say something else. Anyway. Alright, but let's begin the tutorial for real this time. The first technique I call quick and dirty. The advantages to this technique are that it is quick and easy to set up, it's steady and reliable, songs can be quickly stopped and started, the boomboxes can be arranged however you want, and it uses the least parts possible, allowing for the most compact setup. The weaknesses of this technique are you have to adjust the start delay for every single boombox, changing the tempo is a pain, songs must be played from the beginning every time, the song cannot be paused, and finally, moving more than one note during the editing process is very tedious. This makes the quick and dirty setup ideal for music makers who simply want a tune which will play its precisely planned notes from beginning to end at a moment's notice. Alright, to begin, we need to place down GR18, a package, and the goal. These are required for us to be able to playtest our level. Now, with that out of the way, we're going to click on the Cosmetic tab, which is the one with the eyeball on it. And then we're going to select Boombox. Now, when you first place down the boombox, you will notice it has a red button on the top of it. And when you step on this button, it plays whatever note it's set to. This is the case when the receiving channel is set to none. But for our purposes, we're going to change that. You'll want to click on the arrow, the one that points to the right, and change the receiving channel to 0. Now you might notice that the 0 is grayed out as compared to the other numbers and options for our boombox. That's a good thing because it means we're not using the channel 0 for anything else, and we won't accidentally activate the boombox unintentionally. Next, we're going to want to click on the Switches tab, which is the one with a lightning bolt. And then we're just going to select a standard pressure switch that you can stand on. And I'm going to place it down right next to GR18. You may notice that the sending channel on our pressure switch is already set to 0. This is because of a setting that I have checked, which I will show you right here. It's at the very bottom of the settings for the editor. It's called Auto Assign Switches and Receivers. And you can either turn this on or off, depending on your preference. But the point is you'll have to make sure that the sending channel on the pressure switch is the same as the receiving channel on the boombox. Now we're going to test it out. And as you can see, the switch is activating the boombox. Every time GR18 steps on the pressure switch, the boombox plays a note. Now, it is working perfectly. However, the pressure switch makes a bleeping sound every time it is activated, which we want to mute by changing this option here at the bottom. This makes for a more pleasant listening experience. The next thing we need to look at is the instrument, which is this option right here. There are 3 different instruments: bass, melody, and percussion. The percussion is basically just a drum beat, and the bass and melody are what we're really interested in, because that's what we're going to make the song out of. For this specific example, I'm going to use melody, and I'm going to select a G sharp of the 4th octave, which sounds like this. Now I'm going to add more notes to the song by adding more boomboxes. The way we're going to do this is by hovering over the first boombox that we've placed and pressing the Y button to copy it. Then I simply move one square to the right and press A to paste. Now, for the receiving channel, we're going to want all of the boomboxes that we place for our song to have the same channel. The obvious issue that we run into when we have both boomboxes on the same channel hooked up to the same button is that they simply play at the same time. The way to solve this is by adjusting the start delay beats of each boombox that we copy and paste. We know that both of our boomboxes are exactly the same. They play the same note, the same instrument, same everything, and they hold that note for the same duration, which is shown here where it says note beats 0.25. So that means that we want our second boombox to wait 0.25 units of time, I don't know if that's exactly seconds, before it plays. That way our song will play one note at a time in a sequence rather than playing everything at once. Now I'm going to make a quick adjustment here. I'm going to make the notes hold for longer because I would like the tempo of the song to be a bit slower. I can simply do this by changing the note beats that each boombox holds to be 1 second instead of 0.25. And I need to adjust the start delay beats for the second boombox to be 1.0 so that it will wait for the first boombox to finish playing its note before it plays. So now our melody, which is only 2 notes, plays a little bit slower. I'm going to add the third note by copying the second and pasting it to the right. Then I'm once again going to select a different pitch for our third boombox this time. I'm going to adjust the start delay beats to 2.0 since we need to wait for both notes 1 and 2 to finish playing before we have the third note play. And so when GR18 steps on the pressure switch, now all of the boomboxes activate in sequence. Now I'm just adjusting the last 2 notes to try to match it with the rhythm that I have planned out. And that is something I recommend, is planning out your song in advance to make it much easier to build in the game. This will get a bit repetitive. It's a lot of copying and pasting and adjusting some variables. Now it helps a lot to be able to hear the notes of the song that you're creating. And one way to do this is to jump into the level and to press the button and play the whole song. Another way, if you want to just quickly hear a few notes, is to press A and B quickly on each boombox, and you can just sort of sample it. That's a trick that I use. Now this way of sampling it helps to ensure that you have the right tones that you're trying to select, but if you want to test for the rhythm too, you're going to have to actually jump into the level and activate it using the switch. You may notice that the start delay beats just keeps getting bigger with each boombox that we paste down. That's one reason that copying the most recent boombox and pasting it is very helpful, because then all you have to do is look at the note beats of the previous boombox and increase the start delay beats by that much. Now the process is pretty repetitive, and you're going to have to test out your song frequently, both by sampling and by actually playing the song. But I suspect that we can both agree that the finished product is well worth the effort. The second technique I call dynamic tracks. The great things about this technique are that songs can be muted and unmuted without pausing or resetting. Songs can be paused. Your song can be reversed. Tempo adjustments are much easier. Moving multiple notes during the editing process is nearly effortless. Sections can be easily copied and reused as they are. Muted and unmuted tracks can be kept continuously in sync with each other. The downsides are getting individual notes to precisely fit the tempo can be finicky. there are a lot more parts to set up. Songs cannot be instantly reset to the beginning. The boomboxes must be arranged in a particular way. And finally, looping is a bit quirky. This makes the dynamic tracks technique ideal for composers who want their music to play continuously and switch between arrangements of their song on the fly. Now I start by placing down a few boomboxes, and I'm not worrying about the exact note right now. Something that you should take note of, though, no pun intended, is that the receiving channel this time will be set to none. And that will cause these little red buttons to appear on one of the sides of the boombox, and that's what I'm about to do right here, is rotate it so that, well, you'll see the crate that will be moving around later will push the buttons in order and cause the music to play. And I'm going to make this a total of 12 blocks high in this example, but you can adjust it to be whatever size or length you want. This is going to be a pretty simple setup, but it should illustrate the point. And we can't forget to set up the rail. Just keep in mind, as I'll show you here, we're going to put a crate on top of this moving platform, because the moving platform itself does not trigger the buttons. We want to select yes for close, so it's a closed circuit, and change the end action to restart. That way it will continuously loop. Then we place on top of it a crate, and we're almost done. We just need to get GR18 and place him nearby on some ground tiles so that we can listen to our music, or at least see that it works in this case. And there we have it. It's a steady loop of notes, which is very useful for continuous background music that fades in and out and such the like. I built another example with 2 of those loops, and I incorporated teleporters so that, as you will see, it can fade between 2 different versions of a track, and the 2 loops always stay in sync with each other. One practical use for the quick and dirty technique is a short jingle like this one. And here is a fun application of the dynamic tracks technique. Now, I hope this tutorial has been helpful to you. I would love it if you shared your musical creations with me. You can do so by including your level share code in a comment or by tweeting it at me on Twitter. The last thing I need to do is thank you for watching all the way through to the end. I can't make any promises yet, but hopefully the next video will be a fascinating exploration of how money is portrayed in video games. I won't say more than that. You'll have to wait and see for yourself. Until next time,
Salute, Bowser!